Hi, I'm Amber. Today's story is about a night guard who started doing something his job never asked him to do.
Pete Decker was halfway through his 2 a.m. rounds when he heard the crash. Room 14. He ran, pushed the door open and found a nurse already crouching beside the bed, picking up a water pitcher off the floor. The old woman in the bed had her arms crossed and her jaw set like she'd done something on purpose, because she had. "She does this," the nurse said. "She just wants someone to come in." Pete stood in the doorway for a second, looked at the woman, then walked back out. He thought about that for the rest of the night. Her name was Evelyn Cross. He checked the board outside her door the next evening. 81 years old, admitted 9 days ago. In the column marked primary contact, someone had written 2 words, none listed. Pete stared at that for a moment, then he kept walking. But when he came back around on his next loop, he stopped in front of her door and said her name, out loud, quietly. Evelyn, like he was reading it off a list. He felt a little stupid. He kept moving. He did it the next night, and the night after that. Pete had worked security at Mercy General for 3 years. Night shift, 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. Same halls, same stairwells, same log sheet. He was 36, divorced, and still had moving boxes stacked in his living room 18 months after he'd moved in. He wasn't miserable, he just stopped noticing things. He started noticing again. There were 10 other patients on the 4th floor with no listed visitors. He read every board. He memorized the names. Evelyn Cross, Walter Crane, Barbara Stanton, a kid named Cody Hurst, 18 years old, who had been there for 2 weeks. His emergency contact was a phone number someone had crossed out with a single line. Every time Pete passed a door, he said the name. One word. He didn't knock. He didn't go in. He just said it and moved on. He told himself it was nothing. His supervisor found out in week 3. Doug was a big man who ran a tight operation and had no patience for anything that slowed the floor down. He was waiting at the security desk when Pete came around the corner. "Your hall checks are running long," Doug said. "I read the boards." "Why?" Pete didn't answer right away, being thorough. Doug looked at him like that was the wrong answer. "You're not a nurse, Pete. You walk the floor, check the exits, log your rounds. That's the job." "I know the job." "Then do it on time." Pete nodded. That night he walked faster. He still said every name. Week 5 is when it got serious. Pete found Barbara Stanton standing in the hallway at 1:30 a.m. She was 68, 2 days out of hip surgery, and she had no idea where she was. She was barefoot on the linoleum, gown open at the back, holding the wall with one hand. Pete got to her first. He held her arm, kept her steady, called for the nurse. He stayed with her until someone came. 4 minutes. Doug pulled him into the office the next morning before shift change. "Staff filed a report," Doug said. "You were with the patient in 411 for 9 minutes. She was alone in the hallway. The nurse handled it. The nurse showed up 4 minutes after I did." "Pete," Doug leaned forward. "I've had 2 nurses tell me patients are expecting you now. One woman asked why the man who says her name hadn't come by yet. He let that sit. You see the problem." Pete saw the problem. He also saw that someone had been waiting for him, that someone had noticed he was coming. "I'm not doing anything wrong," Pete said. "You're a liability. You're not trained for patient interaction. You're not covered for it. If something goes wrong while you're standing at somebody's door whispering their name in the dark, that falls on this hospital and it falls on me." Doug pointed at the desk between them. "One more report and I write you up. Are we clear?" Pete said they were clear. He almost stopped. That same week, he stood in front of Evelyn Cross's door on his midnight loop and just stood there with his mouth closed. He thought about the write-up. He thought about his rent. He thought about how easy it would be to just walk past, same as everyone else did, same as he used to do. He stood there for 10 seconds. Then he said her name and kept walking. He didn't think about it again after that. Pete sat in his car in the parking lot for 20 minutes after the confrontation with Doug. He didn't start the engine. He just sat there. He thought about Evelyn Cross yanking out her IV so a person would walk into her room. He thought about the crossed-out number on Cody Hurst's board. He thought about Barbara Stanton grabbing his arm in the hallway and saying, the moment she saw him, she said, "Oh, thank God, a person." Not security, not staff, a person. He went home. He unpacked one of the boxes in his living room. He couldn't explain why. It just felt connected somehow. He kept saying the names. Doug wrote him up 2 weeks later. Pete signed the form and came back to work the next night. He didn't argue about it. He didn't slow down his rounds or go into any rooms or cross any line he hadn't already crossed. He walked the hall, stopped at each door with no visitor listed, said the name, and moved on. 30 seconds, nothing more. Then Cody Hurst's room went empty. Pete noticed on a Wednesday. Board wiped clean, bed stripped. He stood in the doorway of that empty room longer than he should have. Then he walked to the nurse's station and asked, casual as he could make it, what happened to the patient in that room. The nurse checked her screen. Discharged Monday. Pete nodded. His grandmother came, she added. First visitor he'd had the whole stay. He'd been calling her and she finally showed up. She glanced up. He was in good shape when he left. Pete walked back to his rounds. He had nothing to do with that. He was clear-eyed about that. He was a security guard who said names into quiet hallways and drank bad coffee at a folding table. He hadn't fixed Cody Hurst's family. He hadn't healed anything. But he had said that kid's name out loud every single night for 5 weeks, into an empty corridor, into the silence at 2 a.m., like a small insistence. You are here, you are known, someone knows you are behind this door. Whether that mattered, Pete couldn't say. He kept doing it anyway. Walter Crane was discharged in September. Barbara Stanton's daughter finally showed up in October, 3 weeks late, and took her home. The floor turned over. New names went up on the boards. Pete learned them all. Evelyn Cross passed away on a Thursday. Pete found out the way he always found out. The board blank, the room turned over, a new name going up by the weekend. He stopped in the hallway. The floor was busy. Someone was laughing at the nurse's station. A cart rattled past him. He thought about her lying there on all those nights while he walked the hall outside. He thought about how she knocked that pitcher off the table just to get one person to open a door. He thought about whether anyone had said her name in those last few hours, whether anyone had been in the room, whether she had gone out with someone holding her hand or just the sound of the monitors and the hum of the building at night. He hoped someone had been there. He didn't know. He would never know. He said her name one last time. Evelyn. Then he finished his rounds. Doug transferred to another facility in November. The new supervisor has never said a word about the way Pete moves through the floor, slowly, deliberately, stopping at the doors with the empty contact columns. He still says the names. Every single one of them. Every single night. He figures it costs him nothing. And he figures, for some of them, it might be the only time all day that anyone says their name out loud in this world. So he says it.
And that's the end of the story. Oh, where are you watching from? Drop it in the comments.
The loneliest people in any room are often the ones we walk right past. If this hit you, subscribe. We tell stories like this every week.
If someone's name has gone unsaid in your life, say it today and subscribe for more stories like this one.